Welcome to BrainCandy Labs. I'm Ava Astro, and it's been fun hosting these sessions with amazing role models. Very excited to kick off today's session called I Want to Be Me When I Grow Up with our very own Lauren Sachs. First, some housekeeping. I invite you to turn on your cameras if you wish to get up close and personal with our speaker. You can switch your view from gallery view to speaker view at the top of your screen. All lines are muted so we don't get too much background noise. As our speaker shares with you, you will probably have questions. Put them in the chat and she'll get to it in a later section. Now let me introduce you to our speaker, Lauren Sachs. Lauren is a full-stack developer with a love for math and analytical problem solving. The combination of numerous leadership positions in extracurriculars and development experience on global teams has helped her develop superb conflict resolution, community building, and teamwork skills tailored to the world of engineering and computer science. She is on a constant drive for opportunities to learn and grow and is currently studying data science. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, nice to see all of you. Am I good to get started? All right, awesome. First, I don't know if all of you have been on the computer for a while, but maybe give me a little stretch first. Can be a lot to be on the computer all day. Get up and moving, and we can do this afterwards too. But thank you all for joining. It's really exciting. It's actually 11 for me. I know some of us might be around the country. But yeah, I'm over here on the East Coast, coming into you from New Jersey. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of my journey of finding out what I'm interested in within STEAM. So let's get started. By the end of today, I would like all of you to be able to say, I want to be me when I grow up. I think everyone can echo that. We all want everyone to be unique and pursue their individual passions, but like, how do you do that? What does it mean to be yourself? I'm not sure about that. Echo was listening to me. Sorry about that. And how do you stay focused on that?
According to blogspot.com.
Apologies. Okay, I'm going to turn echo off. To help us understand a little bit more, I'm going to tell you my story. As we grow up, we all have some idea of what we want to be, and it gradually changes. In 5th grade, I wanted to be a pop star. Haven't gotten too far on that one. In 7th grade, I wanted to be a pediatrician. My freshman year of high school, I wanted to be an engineer. These ideas of what we want to be tend to change as we get more information about careers. Representation can start to shape where we see ourselves. We see which jobs our friends' parents have or our parents have. Within school, we start to understand which subjects connect to certain professions. And then we use that information to figure out what we want to focus on and study in college and then go on into a career. I loved English. I would read Hemingway in my free time, which, you know, outs me as a nerd, which there's nothing wrong with that. I would talk to my English teachers about it after I had read it. You know, we would meet in the hallways and I would share ideas with them. Creative writing was my favorite, but I would get absorbed researching and refining my essays. I loved environmental science. It combined my love for the outdoors with everything I was learning in physics and chemistry. And of course, I wanted to do my part to help keep our Earth healthy. Most of all, I loved math. Again, bit of a nerd. My freshman year of high school, I self-studied for the Calc 1 exam. And by junior year, I was taking multivariable calculus and differential equations. I always did my math homework first. I even used my free period senior year to be a teacher's assistant for a calc class. Something about the challenges that I faced and the skills that I was using really resonated with me. So when it came time to decide what college programs I would apply to, I applied to computer science. What? There's a disconnect there. My junior year, I took AP Computer Science, and I liked it, but really I just liked the teacher. I had no desire to try anything outside of class like I did for the other classes I mentioned, and I had to pay really close attention in class to keep up with what was going on. So why did I decide to study it? When looking at careers, I was really lucky to see many successful women I could identify with. At the time, I started to see a lot of women, specifically in computer science. And boy, were they cool. They had high paying careers, lots of respect, and they were role models for girls everywhere, like me and you. I wanted to be that. However, somewhere along the way, that disconnect happened. I made a mistake, whether I knew it or not. I started to decide what I wanted to be based on what I could become, not on what I was. That may sound kind of weird, so I'll explain it a little bit more. I wanted to be these women, but I had no idea what their work looked like. The little exposure I had to coding, I didn't quite like, and I didn't know any women who were developers. My desire to choose computer science had nothing to do with my own interests and everything to do with the idea of a perfect, successful career. We all want that. A woman defying the gender stereotype and shattering the glass ceiling, amazing job prospects, and a high salary. All of these are wonderful things to consider. None of them are bad things. But when I looked at these women, I said, I want to be her when I grow up. It had nothing to do with me. I'll tell you right now, you will never reach your full potential doing something you don't love. When I got into college, I dreaded my classes. Oh my goodness, I did not want to go. I got really anxious about looking for internships. I had to psych myself up to even open my resume to edit it, which is an important first step if you're going to be looking for internships. I committed to this dream, and there was so much pressure to keep going, so I did. Instead of acknowledging that I didn't like it and changing majors or searching for something that I really loved within it, I just powered through. I graduated in 3 years, which wasn't easy, but when I got out, I couldn't think of any reason that someone would hire me as a developer. The job search was really, really draining. I didn't know how to tell people that I was the person that they should hire because I wasn't in love with what I was doing. Of course, you'll feel incompetent in a field you don't enjoy surrounded by people who do. And it's really easy to fall behind when you don't know why you're there. I don't regret learning how to code at all. The cool thing about STEAM is that it encompasses such a wide variety of tools, right? We've got science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics. There's so many things underneath that, and I believe anyone can find a tool that will best serve them in their interests. My challenges weren't because I hated coding with everything in my body and I'll never be able to do it. Nope. But all my reasons for doing it were wrong. Now, I find patterns in human behavior fascinating. And it's actually really useful for, sales. How do you sell something to someone? Well, you have to understand why they would want it or what they would want. Turns out a combination of math and computer science, otherwise known as data science, does a really good job at helping those patterns. Now I'm pursuing my master's in data analytics in the fall, and I'm looking for jobs around that same line. The same anxiety that I used to feel when applying to jobs is totally replaced by a confidence that I didn't even know I had simply because I know why I'm there. I know why I want to do that, and I believe that I'll be great at it because I love it. We need more women in STEAM, but each and every one of those journeys into STEAM needs to begin with you. Do you love styling hair? Take a look at the chemistry behind dye, the hair dye. It could pique your interest. I actually had a babysitter who hated chemistry and hated science and all kinds of it until she went to cosmetology school. Are you an adrenaline junkie? Learn the physics that keeps you on the tracks while you're on a roller coaster. Do you really like designing things? Find out how you can use HTML and CSS to bring your visions to life for anyone around the world to see. Pursue STEAM, but pursue your version of STEAM. All of your career pursuits or learning pursuits should start with your own interests, not your role model's interests, not your teacher's interests, not your parents' interests, but yours. Because when you pursue something you love, you will succeed. You will achieve greatness. You will achieve this perfect, successful career that I was dreaming of and that a lot of people dream of because you love it. Again, sounds amazing, but how do you get there? Where do you start? Start now. I notice a lot of you guys are like pretty young. That's awesome. Start with other people too. It'll make the learning more fun. So grab some friends, take your common interests, and think of something you'd like to learn. Ask your teachers or your parents if they know someone who kind of works in that area. Look for materials and projects online to work on with your friends. Try things now so that you can start to figure out what your interests are. What do you want to spend your time on? What do you want to learn more about? Learn all of those things so that when you say, I want to be me when I grow up, you know what that means and you want to do it. So that's my story. And I think that all of us can kind of, start somewhere, right? So if you want to, you can, I think there are a bunch of questions. Oh boy.
Yes, Lauren, Ava and I are going to tag team and ask you some questions. And there's some great questions. And so first question is from our friend Angelina and said, what is your favorite part of math?
Oh gosh. Differential equations was my favorite class. When it comes to my favorite part, I think it was sort of like the brain processes that you had to go through kind of to fit the different puzzle pieces together. So trying to use a bunch of different functions to solve an equation. It's almost like the style of problem that was really exciting for me. So I loved calculus.
That's so fun. Another question is, what is your favorite computer feature?
Ooh, I think Linux subsystem for Windows, which sounds weird and boring, but basically, like Windows computers have trouble with certain applications, and there are other, Windows and Mac, there are different kinds of operating systems. So I can be a little lazy when it comes to certain things, but the subsystem makes it really easy for me to run all kinds of different code and learn about different things without having to get into the nitty-gritty of trying to set up a whole different subsystem. That's a lot of like really weird words. Basically like command line and being able to, I don't know, try out different things. But I think what that gets down to is like you can do so many different things with your computer and you can learn a lot of different things. And any tool that helps you learn more and helps make it easier, you don't have to do everything from scratch. I think that's really cool.
That's awesome. Ava, are there some fun questions that you like and you want to ask Lauren?
Nithala asked, do you think there might be a way to combine the career you are pursuing right now with some of your other interests, like nature, like you mentioned, and others?
I I really hope so. And I think one of the cool things about data science, and I like that you mentioned nature because that's actually one of the things that I really, really love. And my dream backup career would be studying environmental science and like living on top of a mountain. Um, but there are actually a lot of really cool things that you can do with data analytics when it comes to like observing patterns in the world. And these patterns can appear anywhere. So like if I can start to, use data and math and computer science to understand what's happening in our world and maybe how we can fix it, I think that would be really amazing because everything is patterns. Our weather patterns.
Bodhi asked, who is your role model and what are some silver linings of computer science?
My role model. I think my role model is her name is Elena. She is was the first data scientist at FINRA, and she kind of like invented the position there. Data science wasn't really a thing before she got there. FINRA is, sorry, another question popped up. Good clarifying thing. FINRA is a research organization from what I believe. I can, actually, I don't want to take too much time to search it, but what she figured out is as a product manager, which is the job of someone who understands why people want things and how you build something for what people want, right? If you're going to produce something, you need to make sure people are going to buy it. She figured out that you can use mathematics and computer science as well as people skills and understanding the people around you and how you communicate them. Two of those can work really well together and help you make super cool products and understand why people want those things. So I definitely admire her. Was there a follow-up question for that?
Yeah, it said, what are some silver linings of computer science?
Yeah, I think computer science teaches you how to think about like systems. And computer science is nice in that it's such a huge umbrella. So like I said, I don't regret learning it at all. I think computer science is really, really handy, but it's such a broad topic. If you don't know what you're getting into when you start it, then you can feel a little lost. So I think computer science, it's especially important to understand why you want to use it because you can use it for so many things. So yeah.
Are there any more questions?
Yes, there's a question and it says, I really have a hard time with learning math, but after I figure it out, it is easy. Still don't like it though. Is data science a good career for me?
So data science is based in a little bit of math. And if you say, I don't like math, maybe you should figure out something that you do like. And sometimes it's not just the tool, but the application. So, math to figure out a certain value at a point in a graph, right? Some algebra is totally different than, math to understand a data set or math to understand the physics of a roller coaster, right? They're all different kinds. But I think, if there is a subject that you really love, you can figure out how to use those tools. So I think the mistake that I made was, I don't really like computer science, but I guess I'll do it anyways. And if you don't like something, then, find something you do love because history and English, there's so much that we can do on the internet to like inform people and talk to people about the things that they need to understand. So again, like STEAM is just a bunch of tools. Start on the things that you really, really love.
That was a good follow-up question too from Gabriella. She said, is there a difference between computer science and computer technology?
Yeah, I think, and I mean, I'm not an expert on any of this, but from what I understand, computer technology is kind of like the tools that you can use and maybe like building some of those things. And then computer science is a little bit more of a study. So, you know, science in itself is a study. So it's study of computers. And like the ways that you can use that. So maybe more high level things like machine learning and things like that would fall under computer science. But if you're talking about, you know, a webcam and how that webcam works, then that could be considered computer technology. That's my understanding.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Another question from Ella says, how did you solve a subject that was too difficult for you to learn, such as quadratic function? Quadratic, sorry.
Yeah, it's too difficult for you to learn. All right. So yeah, part of the, sometimes our challenge in school is that we run into things that are really challenging for us alone. And I think that that can be a big barrier for learning in general. I would say try to work with other students. Learning should not be just like an individual thing, right? Once you get out of school, you're never doing anything alone. So I would say, you know, try to learn with your friends, find out how they understand it, ask the teacher, you know, maybe spend a little bit of extra time working with other people and bouncing off ideas. Because doing things by yourself can be a little daunting and really discouraging. So I think one of the best ways to learn anything, whether you like the topic or not, is to do it with other people. And sometimes that'll make you figure out what parts of that you love, because those are the ones that you can take charge of. And then some of it, you know, you don't like so much, but someone else does. So I think that team efforts can make any learning a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a good word. I think it's really easy to kind of get in that silo of learning sometimes and really get in your head and kind of feel alone in that. And so I think that's such a good word of working with people. We kind of forget that we have teams and we have people around us, and that's what the workforce looks like. You have teams, you have people, you can ask for help. And so I wish I would have heard that when I was younger, of saying, oh, that's okay. You know, we're good to ask questions.
Yeah.
So,
and you don't all have to do the same work too, because we all have different skills, right? You're going into STEAM and everything has to start with you. Your efforts should not be trying to do everything the same as everyone else, because sometimes you'll be better at things and sometimes you'll struggle more with things. But you can learn a lot more by sharing responsibilities and balancing your strengths and your areas of improvement.
Yeah. You said something, and I think it was part of your story, but you were talking about your confidence. What was kind of a pivotal moment for you where you felt like, okay, here's my confidence, here's my sweet spot? What did that sound like, look like, feel like for you?
Yeah, I think part of it was understanding the kinds of problems that I wanted to solve and understanding that I could solve them. So I think a lot of development jobs were really scary for me because you know, I didn't like just regular application development. I didn't know why I would be doing it. Whereas a lot of these analytics positions I was looking at, the motive behind it became very clear to me. It was, you know, I'm using these tools to understand something bigger. And, you know, I think that that task made more sense to me and was really exciting for me. So I think the confidence came from being excited about something and knowing that when you're excited about it, you're going to do well at it.
Yeah. Yeah. What sparked your interest for math and your love for math? Was it a teacher? Was it just a class? Was it, you know, what was that for you? If you can put your
think-
finger on it.
Yeah, I think it's hard to pinpoint. It's funny because I remember kindergarten hating like the math section because it was like clocks and clocks didn't make sense to me at the time. Um, but I think I was in a smaller school for 2 years, and then I came back into the public school, and I started like skipping years of math to like kind of get back up because of the smaller school, everyone was in the same class. Um, and I think that was when I started to understand that like it clicked for me. It made a lot of sense. Um, and then once it started to make sense, I could figure out the kinds of problems to solve. And I think calculus especially was really cool for me because I liked understanding why things work. Like, why is that object falling as fast as why does a feather fall slower? Like, how does gravity work? And like all those things are rooted in math and calculus. And, uh, you know, it explained things that I was curious about.
That's good. Emma says, what do you do as a full stack developer? How do you combine it with data analytics?
Yeah, great question. So full stack developer is a term used for someone building like kind of all layers of an application or a product. So it's a somewhat general term. A lot of the positions that I was looking at and the experience that I had was full stack web development, so building web applications. And that is different technologies, but you can kind of take data analytics and use it as a tool within your like your web application. So like, if you're using your email, right, that's a web application. Or if you're looking at a website, that's a web application. But within that website, you can have some summary of different data sets, and here are the current global weather patterns, and here's what that means in terms of the numbers, and that would be data analytics. So data analytics is kind of like a separate sort of product, but you can use it in a bunch of different places. So it's kind of more of a it's like a different sort of product than a web application.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is the first thing you've created with code? I've done Minecraft. Is there more?
Oh yeah. Created Minecraft with code, or I think Minecraft has some like coding elements to it too. When I was I would say probably middle school, I started using some code in my like online blog. I would find different things and try and patch together the code to make something that I could use. And after that, it was probably, I did like a text version of Battleship, the game Battleship, where you kind of like shoot down. So like I wrote the code and then it would output in like kind of command line. So it was a lot of just like dashes and lines and like X's. It wasn't very pretty, but you could play Battleship, and that was pretty cool.
Another question that I have, word on the street, I've heard the term noble explorers. Our friend Cindy told us about that. Do you want to tell us a little bit more of what that is?
Yeah. So Noble Explorers kind of centers around this idea of like learning together and learning as a group. So it's project-based learning, and it's all online. It's students from all over the globe. So you have projects of like different lengths, and you enter with a team of students who are usually around your age, and then you have instructors who are a little bit older than you, but usually not that much. Sometimes they can be the same age as you, but it's kind of this idea of like, you teach everyone else, right? Like you have a project to do and you do all of your learning together. So instead of someone, giving you a bunch of things to memorize and then testing you on it, you have a task to accomplish. And based on what you want to do for that task, you learn certain things. So yeah, Noble Explorers is, it's sort of starting up. So we've got a couple of different classes in like web development and like some JavaScript. There's a really cool, what's it called? Like a text-based game. So you create like a maze with JavaScript code and you can kind of like navigate through the maze. So like different tasks that are fun and creative and collaborative.
Do you get to teach anything?
Yeah, so I have been in the process of creating the classes. So I sort of start with a project and then I teach it to a group, and then I figure out how I want to, give support to that project, make it as collaborative as possible, make it as interactive as possible. So I've been teaching some data visualization using JavaScript. One of the things we've been doing is like, when you want to start with some code, sometimes you don't have to code it all the way from the start. Like you can take some code and turn it into something that you like. So we've been doing that. I've taught the coding and web design classes, and I'm also taking a bunch of classes. We're coming out with some on communication, how to pitch ideas, leadership, things like that too. So a lot of soft skills as well.
Awesome. What sparked your interest with Noble Explorers? Like, where did that kind of come from? And
Yeah, it's actually my dad's company, and he started it because when I was in high school and I was working on a group project, he witnessed a very upset phone call that I had with some of my team members because we were on a project and we needed to get something done and nobody else really understood what was going on, and I was doing really well at the class and some people didn't really know like how to accomplish all the tasks, but we weren't learning from each other. I was just doing my own tasks and expecting them to do their tasks, and they were like, oh well, I guess I don't have to do as much. So he basically was like, oh, you're learning unteamwork. You're learning to not work in teams because, nobody else is motivated to do more work when they think that other people in their group can do their work, and the people who do all the work in the group don't want other people taking, credit for their work. So it's like if you have teamwork without soft skills and leadership and some of these other factors, then the teamwork doesn't really work. So it sort of started with that, and then how can you extend that to learning?
Lauren, that's really cool and really needed, I feel like, in this age group and all from elementary, middle school to high school. So that I'm really, really thankful for that's a resource for people. How can people find Noble Explorers?
Yeah, it's at nobleexplorers.com. So you can register on there. We have a couple of different classes coming up, a bunch of classes in the works as well. We have a intro to machine learning one that's actually on the back burner because there's some like tools that we need to work out in order to make it really collaborative. But that one should come out somewhat soon. But yeah, so nobleexplorers.com.
Awesome. Lauren, so good.
I have another question. It's what other careers are possible with mixing arts and tech? I also like arts and fashion.
Ooh. So my university actually has a whole major dedicated to arts and tech. And the cool thing about art is it starts to introduce this idea of like almost communication. Like when you're using art, like you want to say something, but you also want whoever's looking at that art to understand something or feel something. And those skills are really cool when we integrate them with tech, right? So whenever you're using an application or a product, you want to make sure that like you're enjoying the whole process. And so art is actually really handy in figuring out how to make any product like feel good for whoever's using it, right? Art comes into the design of our phones. Like art comes into the design of the websites, the banner behind you. An artist was definitely a huge part of. So art has so many uses in tech, especially now that artificial intelligence is coming around, and you know, it's starting to do more of the like nitty gritty tasks for us, and we can start to understand why humans are the way we are. And art is an incredible tool for that. I actually have my like watercoloring supplies over there in the corner. So art is amazing, and it's all expression, right? Yeah. HTML, yeah, front-end development is a huge part of art. So like how can you, when someone looks at a website, how do you get them to look at a certain section or want to click on something or feel good when they're on your website? So yeah, and fashion, I think fashion again is kind of this like expression of yourself, right? How can you let people around you know the message that you're trying to convey? And how can you combine different colors and textures and fabrics? And there's a lot of technology around, you know, designing clothing and, you know, making that process more efficient. So.
I have a YouTube channel, and I interviewed a girl named Neda Svetic, and she engineered some of the programming software for the autonomous driving for Tesla.
Wow.
And she also makes jackets and codes the robots to make them.
Yeah. It's all, you know, understanding why we want certain things and understanding the processes of how we do that. So yeah, that's really, really cool.
Angela also asked, do you have any outside jobs?
Any outside jobs? Outside jobs to my, so I have my current job at Noble Explorers, which is a couple of different tasks. I don't have any like formal jobs outside of that. I worked for a startup for a little bit on their data team. But other than that, I am mostly on Noble Explorers right now.
Gabriella asks, what university did you go to?
I went to Stevens Institute of Technology. It's right outside of New York City. Yeah, it was a cool place. I will say, I think the most important part of university is being excited about the program. I think, you know, if you want to pursue your learning, the college isn't going to change that all that much. I think it really starts with you. But I did enjoy the location of my college. And I liked that I had the opportunity to graduate early. So yeah, Stevens Institute of Technology.
I have a funny question from Nithala. She said, have you ever eaten wild mushrooms?
Wild mushrooms? I don't think so, but I would love to be able to. I love the outdoors, and I've recently gotten into like identifying plants and, you know, seeing which ones I can eat, which you have to be careful about. But yeah, I would love to go foraging for mushrooms actually. Yeah, if you can identify them. I definitely want to learn which mushrooms are which.
One last question as we round out our time. This was such a wonderful conversation and Yeah, Lauren, I'm just really thankful for your story. I'm thankful
Aw.
for just the way that you navigated, the way that you um, just figured out what needs to be true for you, and kind of that pivot where you figured out, hey, I need to do something for me and what makes me happy and what will allow me to flourish. And I think
Mhm.
that's so huge when we unlock the way, like unlock our confidence and
Mhm.
unlock our best self, we do our best work.
Yeah.
And I hear that in your story, and it's so evident, and I'm really proud of you. And I'm excited for these kids to unlock their own confidence and unlock their own what's true for them. What do they love? Not what their friends love. What do you love? And that's what you're talking about here. And I'm
Yeah.
really thankful for that and thankful for you. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. One more question I would say, what would you tell your younger self? Uh,
Gosh.
yeah, what would you tell your 8-year-old, 10-year-old self?
I think like the world needs you. They don't need a copy of someone else. They don't need you to try to be someone else. Like you're here, you have a unique set of gifts. Use those because it literally is unique. Nobody else has that. So like the best way that you can kind of serve the world is by doing things that are true to you and following what you really love because like when you love it, you'll find success. Like you will be successful because you love it and because you can do your absolutely best work. So yeah, I think.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Very inspiring this morning. Again, very proud of you. Very proud of you. Ava, do you want to round us out this evening? Or it's not evening, it is morning. That's my morning brain. What do you have for us, Ava?
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Courtney and Lauren. I hope you all enjoyed this Brain Candy Lab session of I Want to Be Me When I Grow Up with Lauren Sachs. We love your feedback, so please go to the chat and see our survey link. Our next session starts at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with our special guest hailing from Australia, Jade Tan Holmes. We'd like to thank Witty and our sponsors, Ring Central, Bank Page, Geico, and our speaker, Lauren. As a reminder, follow us on social at Brain Candy Labs and my own personal YouTube show, Ava Astro, online. Links on the slide. Be sure to check it out, NobleExplorers.com. Until next time, this is Ava Astro for Brain Candy Labs, reminding you to stay curious and don't forget to ask the next best question.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you all for joining.